Hey, g'day guys, it's Ed here again. Today I'm going to bring you a video which is specifically about painting an RC boat. I couldn't find anything online that's specifically related to painting RC boats. There is a lot of information on there regarding automotive painting, which obviously would apply to painting fiberglass and plastic RC boats, but there is a lot of different information out there, so I wanted to bring something in one as short as possible video for anyone that's contemplating embarking on this job. So first of all, I want to give a big shout out to my brother-in-law Darren Gilroy. This guy is an amazing panel beater, automotive painter. Check him out, look him up, Darren Gilroy on YouTube. He creates the most amazing Mustangs, Eleanors, I think there's 67 Shelbys. Awesome, go check him out. But this video, like I said, I'm just going to start off with some things that you actually need to get in your hot little hands before you embark on the process. And then cover just a couple of different projects that you might actually be facing. And then hopefully give you a few little pointers as I'm going along. I've got this Ariane here which I'm currently working on, but I thought I'll stop now before I get too far and I'll document this process. So without further ado guys, I'll get started on what bits and pieces you're going to need. Okay, so what you're going to need is going to somewhat depend on your project, okay? You could have something that you've done a lot of repairs on, or some repairs on, which is what I'm dealing with here. You could have a boat you just want to change the color of for whatever reason, or you could have a boat that you just want to clear coat and look after its existing paint. Those are pretty much the three main jobs that you're going to be dealing with. This one's slap bang in the middle. It's a TFL Ariane. I've done a repair down each side of the seams on this boat where an ESC exploded the hull. So I've taken care of all that. I have begun some sanding, but we'll talk about that. That's going to be our project, okay? It's going to be a base color, and it's going to have a sticker. It's going to have a stencil, which is going to be a second base coat color, and it's going to be clear coated. So we're going to cover all the steps to make this boat from this into what you're going to see at the end of this video, okay? As for stuff, what you're going to need: sandpaper, get good quality stuff, get some 120, get a load of 320 grit, and get yourself some 500 and 600 grit. Those are going to be your staples. 320 grit, that I use quite a lot of that. It's a really handy one. The 120 is great for knocking the top off some rough spots, some repairs perhaps. You just want to get it down. And then the 320, you're going to use a lot of that for prepping the boat for primer in particular. And the 5 or 600s, you're going to use that in between on your base coats, maybe on top of clear coats if you're doing a second color, okay? Get yourself maybe a nice little soft scourer. These are also really handy. We'll cover this off if I end up using it, but pretty much you'll use this on, say, an existing boat that you want to just clear over the top of, okay? You can just use a nice soft scourer to scuff up the surface of it. Sometimes 500-600 grit sandpaper can be a bit aggressive, particularly on stickers perhaps. This will do just fine. Just rub it up and give the clear coat something to stick to. Your kitchen ones like this, if it's rock hard, no good. You're going to score your surfaces. So an old used one, that's an old manky one under the kitchen sink, it's probably going to be perfect. PPE, masks, do the right thing. I may not wear it for this video so I can talk to you guys, okay? But it's important. Paint guns, I'm not going to crack on too much about it. This one was 99 bucks from Super Cheap Auto. I believe it's a LVLP, low volume, low pressure. It's got a 1.3 nozzle. I use this one for all my base coats, okay? Sorry, my primer. That's my primer gun. And I've got this one over here, which is a HVLP, and again with a 1.3 nozzle. And I use that one for my base coats and my clear coats, okay? So yeah, like I said, 99 bucks for that one. I think this one was 150 bucks. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this stuff, okay? While I'm thinking of it, here's my air compressor. It's 120 liters a minute. Get yourself a water trap. Very important. You do not want moisture coming down through your air lines and wrecking your hard work at the end of the job. So do yourself a favor and get yourself a reasonable air compressor, minimum 120. Bigger would be better, but this one does do the job for what I'm doing. And a good, decent water trap. This one was only, I don't know, 50 or 60 bucks. Last parts you're going to need. You're going to need a primer, okay? This is a two-part primer, automotive. You mix these two together at a specific ratio and you add some thinners to that and you're good to go. You're going to need wax and grease remover. This is really good stuff. You can pick it up again, super cheap order, wherever. I buy the stuff by the 4-litre tins because I use a lot of it, okay? Get yourself a bunch of mixing cups, 300ml ones. These are great for your base coats, okay? And then for your clear coats, particularly on your bigger boats, okay, you want the 600ml cups. So get yourself, you know, a dozen of each, or half a dozen if you're doing just one boat. But I got a lot of projects, so I buy those, you know, by the dozen. You're going to need a base coat, so you're going to need to pick what colour that you're going to be using. That's easy enough. Usually a 300ml tin would do most size boats up to 1 metre. If it's over 1 metre or a big chunky boy, something like this, I would suggest you get yourself a 500ml tin, okay? That should leave you enough for some touch-ups or anything at the end of the job, perhaps. Gun wash thinners. Get a lot of this stuff. Look after your guns. They're an investment. You're going to use a lot of this stuff. You don't want to be using the more important or more high-priced 2K thinners for cleaning your guns. You can, but it's a bit of a waste of money. This is the hardener here. The clear coat. You got the clear coat. You got the thinners. This is a fast hardener. I do have normal hardener here. Just depending on your weather, is going to determine what hardener you're going to use. I usually find I'm getting towards the end of the day where I've only got a couple of hours left of light, so I use a fast hardener, and that makes sure that the clear coat goes off fast, so no bugs are getting stuck to my work. So I think that just about covers everything, guys. The rest you can sort of fill in the gaps, but that's going to be predominantly the main stuff you're going to need to paint an RC boat. So let's get into step one, which is prepping the boat. All right, first step, guys, strip your boat. Get all the bits and pieces off the back of the boat. We're working, like I said, with this Ariane here. All I've got left on the outside of this boat is just the through hole for the rudder push rod. That can change colour, I don't care. It's got a rubber boot that goes over it. And I've got a little bit of the stuffing tube left here. We can just stuff a little bit of paper or something inside these. That's going to do the job. I'm being a little bit lazy with it. Ideally, you would just remove the whole lot, okay? But it's not absolutely critical. Next, we're going to get out and get into some sanding. All right, we'll let the fun begin. Here comes the sanding. So, stage one is getting it ready for primer, okay? This boat had a repair down the sides. I used 120 grit to knock the top off, and now I'm working with my 320 grit sandpaper to prep it and ready for primer, all right? If you've got a boat you're just changing colour on, there's nothing wrong with it, say, but you want to change the colour, you're going to be starting off with your 320 grit, all right? You need to make sure that you get into all the little nooks and crannies, okay? You can see here where I've made a poor effort in some places. That shows where the areas you've got to get into. Make sure you get into all these little nooks and crannies. Very important. It's a pain in the ass, but the last thing you want is for your paint not to stick and to flake off. So put in a little bit of extra effort. It doesn't take too long, but it is a painful job. I get it, okay? Some things to look out for. Sometimes you might see some spotting, like what you can see here. So that's some unevenness in the surface that you can actually see. You can see some little shiny spots here, spots where I haven't grabbed. There's actually a little concave section in the boat I've got to hit a bit better, okay? So use the different colors that you're seeing as an indication of where you need to sand more. Little tip, when you get into edges, okay, don't burn through the corners, whatever you do. So you can see here when you go over it, you get this. It's really easy for the a heavy motion to go over sharp corners and edges. So hit these on a 45-degree angle and just go over them like this. Usually you'll start with the edges and just start with those areas, and then you can come through with an even motion and hit them like this. So, all right, so we've got the 320 grit. We're going to hit the bottom of this. A nice sanding block's great for any of the flat areas. Now's a really great chance to get this bottom of this ride planes perfectly flat. All right, so into it. Where it meets over like this, hit it on some edges like this to get it over, and make sure you get your edges. Okay, just over like that. Once you've got that, a lot of it's by hand. Okay, just one finger into all the little spots. Okay, fold your piece of sandpaper up into some tight little areas so you can go down the tracks of your kick areas, or whatever it is, or your ride planes. And guys, it's like I try and get into all these little nooks and crannies first, because they're the painful bit. The big flat areas are easy. In some ways, the catamarans are easier to work with than the V-hulls. And then on the flip side, the V-hulls are easier in other areas. So it doesn't matter what boat you got. They've all got their pros and cons. And like we're just looking to rough up the surface. That's all. Okay. You don't really want to burn through. I have down on the back here where I needed to get it flat. All right, because like I said, take the opportunity to get everything flat. But you don't really want to go down past gel coat. Take the base coat off, no worries, but leave the gel coat alone to the best of your ability anyway. That way you make sure you stick with a nice, get a nice finish. All right, so once they're all done sanding, I'm just going to clean it all off. A little bit of wax and grease remover, clean cloth. I've still got to do my hatch. We're just going to clean all this off and see how we're looking. We just need to get all this dust off and make sure it's free of contaminants. All the nooks and crannies. It's so easy to miss a spot, so just make sure you get in there and all those little areas. Alright, now that you've cleaned the boat off, now's a good chance just to check for any last little bits and pieces that you may have missed. So you do a lot of it by feel. So you can see around here, these aren't looking too crash hot. So I'm going to hit these with a bit of 120 and knock this back down quite a fair bit. And same down on the back here. Still got quite a nasty lip there. I've just flat out missed that. So that's my antenna cover. So that largely will be covered, but it's worth getting it right. Last note, now is the chance to get the bottom of the hull square. Nice sharp edges on the trailing edges, like they're sharp now. So I've spent a bit of time on them. All in all, I'm probably about, I don't know, an hour and a half this has taken me to sand back down to this level. So you can see a little bit of a shiny spot there. There's a spot I've missed. A couple of little spots as you look along here. It's hard to see in this light, I'm sorry. But yeah, you'll need to go over it just a little bit more, I think. Yeah, I can feel it's not real awesome there. So I'm just going to keep hitting it with a bit more 320. All right, and here we are, all done. So this has been done with 320 grit the whole way over. Oh look, there's a little spot just in here I've missed. So you keep going over these things, you're going to keep finding spots. Not too worried about burning through into the gel coat down here. You just don't really want to go down to fiberglass if you can avoid it. So over here, once again, you can see a lot of the gel coat just there, but it's nice and smooth. Next job's going to be to mask this off. This particular boat's got a carbon inlay, so I've got to tape these off so I'm not going to get colour all over them. And then we're going to hang the boat up in the little outdoor spray booth area, and we're going to get some primer down on this. And let's get to it. Alrighty, we've finished sanding. Now it's time to get some primer down. I I've got the boat hung up. I'm about to just clean it down for the final time with a brand new, just microfiber cloth is all I used, and we're going to use more fresh, uncontaminated wax and grease remover. It is imperative this thing is just dry from any contaminants, otherwise it's just going to mess everything up. I've masked everything off as I've needed to. I'm not terribly stressed about this boat in terms of perfection, but that should get the job done. Same for underneath here. We're good to go. So I've got everything laid out, ready to go. I've got my primer, I've got my thinners, and I've got my gun wash on the ready. A couple of little spare pots, and I'm going to get that mixed up and get to painting. We've got the stuff mixed up over there. Those pots are great. I should note they actually show you the percentages on there, so it's really easy to mix up your primer with the amount of hardener and thinners to go in with it. With the actual process, we're going to dust in first. We're going to do a dust coat. We're going to dust in just all like the little edges, nooks and crannies, all these little areas here, all up through and all these gaps, okay? And then once we've done that, we're going to put down our nice dust coat over the whole lot. This is all in one hit. And we're going to let that sit for about 5 or 7 minutes thereabouts, okay? And then we're going to go on with our full coats. And I always start again in those little areas, and then I put my full strokes down over the top of that. And we're going to give it about 7 minutes between each coat. So we're going to do a dust coat, wait 7 minutes, full coat, wait 7 minutes, another full coat, 7 minutes, and then another full coat, 7 minutes. For this size boat, I've mixed up about 300 mils of primer. Probably could go a little bit more than that, just to make sure you've got enough in your pot. You don't want to run out. But I think that should be just enough to get this done. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So that's the second heavy coat. We've got one more heavy coat to go. Bring it in a bit. It's not the best time of day because I've got uneven light, but it gives you an idea of what you should be seeing. Nice even coverages, no runs. I'll admit I had to make up a little bit more primer, so this is probably going to receive around about, I don't know, 450 mils thereabouts. There'll probably be a little bit left in the gun after this next coat. So yep, once that's all done and we give that a bit of a sand, air compressor's off, we'll be looking good. Alrighty, so we're all done now. It's all done. Prime it up. Got our 3 coats on. Any little bits and pieces like this, we'll take care of that sanding. But that's just the beauty of doing this outside. So that's got to sit now for about 36 hours until it's nice and rock hard. Once it's sat here for maybe 4 or 5 hours, touch dry, you might want to move it inside or something to that effect, but I just leave mine hanging up, that's fine. And now I've just got to go and clean the guns. So the video's gone on a little bit longer than I would have thought, so I'm going to actually turn this into a multi-part series. So we're going to leave it here. There's the boat primed. The next video, we're going to encapsulate actually putting some colour down and some stickers and the clear coat process. So thanks for watching, guys. I really hope this has helped because, yeah, as far as I could tell, there was nothing else like it on YouTube, specifically made to do for RC boats. So, all right, till the next one. Cheers, guys.